Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Safety Consultant Show with Sheldon Primus. Guess who I am? I am Sheldon Primus. And today I do have a return guest for you guys. You guys remember and love Justin Barksdale. And he is going to be here telling you about his, not only the consulting firm for safety side, but also leadership side. And this is like really awesome. I was able to talk to him a little bit about the leadership, which is, if you haven't noticed in your own career, leadership is where safety seems to be going. I've noticed it a lot lately. So Justin, I want to hear about how you are incorporating this. So welcome to the show, buddy.
Yeah, thanks. Glad to be here, Sheldon. Looking forward to the conversation and talking today about our journey and what's been going on. So it's been a little while since we've talked, and I'm excited about our team, excited about what's happening. So good
Excellent.
to be on.
Well, catch everybody up. Tell everybody, well, first tell them how we met, and then also tell a little bit about what your organization does, both sides, the safety side, and then we'll get into the leadership side as well. And so,
Sheldon, you and I met, during it wasn't a cost class, but it was an OSHA 30, OSHA. It was a train the trainer.
Yeah.
And I forget a couple interactions, but anyway, we met to do that. I was expanding my own growth and my strategy for what I do, did in the corporate world, and wanted something that could leverage one day for my business here. And so at the time I was actually working in a corporate position and just looking to grow. But from there, we had talked about my growth as a business. So I had, it was a year ago you and I talked, and I had two employees that really have been working my business for me, and me doing evening time things and days when I'm off, weekend kind of hustling. And just recently in the last month or two, I've been able to go full time with my consultancy, all because of this new leadership endeavor. And I'm so excited to talk to you about it today. But it's been quite the journey, quite the adventure from Barksdale Safety Solutions and its growth. But now combining Barksdale Safety Solutions and Barksdale Leadership Solutions. So excited to talk to you about that.
Oh, that is so awesome. And I remember last time that we talked, I was just mentioning to the folks listening, and I was telling everybody, all right, gang, you could do your own safety consulting in however you could dream it. You're doing part-time and having other people work for you. And I know you're really committed to make sure that if you're going to hire somebody, that that you need to support them and their family and everything else. And you're very studious about how to bring people on, and you even sent them to training, because I've trained some of your guys.
Right.
So you did safety consulting your own way, and it's paying off. And I just wanted to remind the audience, go back to that episode. You'll hear how at the time Justin was part-time in his safety consulting, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted to have you back, because this is a big deal, man. I'm proud of you. Congrats.
Yeah. Thank you. It's been an awesome journey. It's been a dream, and just can't say enough about how just, hard work and consistency pays off. It compounds, so we can talk more about that though.
Yeah, absolutely. And for the safety side, how have your approach to finding clients, to doing your website, to doing everything that you do in one? Because a lot of us listening are, one-stop shops. We got to do everything. We're the whole kit and caboodle.
Yeah, exactly.
So tell us
many hats.
Many hats. Yeah, tell us about that.
So, and it's been several years that I've, kind of started working on this whole, what would it look like consultancy thing. So I say it's grown in the last year, but it was really me over the last several years, just working jobs here and there on my days off, working to think up, dream up, whatever you want to call it, just what offerings we would provide. And so just, from foundational things, me going out and getting avenues to do work for people that were part-time that I could do, even doing a corporate type role or a salaried position 40 hours a week, and understanding that there's also parameters with, at the time, my current employer, I had to get a conflict of interest determination form all filled out and be kosher with that, and, work within those parameters. And so there's a lot to it to think about if you're going to start your consultancy like I did mine, and not just leave out there. But I think setting it up like I did over several years and growing into it, it really allowed me to see, is this really what I want to do? Is this really what I'm passionate about? And the more I got into it, the more we grew, the more I was like, yes, this is absolutely the direction for my career. As far as like my website, pretty tech savvy. I built our website. I've started with WordPress. I tinkered around GoDaddy and different ones, but did a lot of research in the evening times, a lot of late nights,
Yes.
a lot of times where, if I didn't know how to do something, and then, or I'd get a job and the job would, I would stop working on the website. It was just a lot of hats. And now my, when I think about social media, I've gravitated in the last couple of years where I had some of my employees start doing that. And then my brother now manages the social media aspect. And we have little systems where you make one post and it goes to 2 different social media outlets now. So it streamlines those things. So you learn things along the way. But for me, it's just grabbing the bull by the horn and trying to understand every facet of the business was just been an adventure for me. I've enjoyed it. It's helped me grow professionally, even beyond the skills that I had within the organizations that I've served for the last 15 years in safety. It's been very rewarding to, quote unquote, run a business, even part-time. Now that I'm in it full time, it's like, wow, I thought I'd have more time to work on things, but now I've got more work because of more clients. And, and now I'm trying to restructure, like, okay, who's going to do this? Who's going to do that? And then give me more time, because you have to have time that you work on the business, not just in the business. Yeah. And I'm very passionate about that, trying to set up, we now have mission, vision statements. We have things like that. And part of my leadership solutions now, Barksdale Leadership Solutions, is helping other businesses do that, in business and executive coaching type things. But it kind of transcends the safety part of it, but goes into more of a leadership development and career development type things for folks, or even for a company. How to set up cultural things that they need to move the ball forward holistically, not just from a safety front, but a production front, from a quality perspective. So I'm doing it in my own business, and trying to set it up the way I know how, as a small business owner. But it's quite the journey. It's quite the everyday get up, and it's a new day. It's a thing we've got to just keep growing a little bit every day at, and get better at things.
And that's actually really, you've said a bunch of powerful things in that transition that you made from, part-time to full-time, because honestly, I could see within that you had the vision, but then you also had the foresight to know that you couldn't stay constantly working the business as opposed to growing the business. And that's the thing that I actually needed to learn. And it took me a while to learn, and you got it within the first few years. So you're like, that learning curve is really good. So all you listening, you know that you need your business, you need to do the activity of your business, but you have to think, what's it going to look like when someone else might be helping me, or when I have to pass it on? And the other thing that I didn't want to sugarcoat and let go is the way that you coordinated with the companies you were working with to make sure that you're doing it in the right way. And I'm sure that, well, I shouldn't say that. Let me ask the question. When you left, was it one of these where they left saying, all right, any way we could help you, we want to make sure we support you? Was that the way you left?
I'll tell you, I had great leadership at my company and that I was with. And, my direct boss knew along the way that my aspiration was to do this. And he valued my role within the company and supported me in my endeavors, obviously, within those boundaries that we had to keep. But I think I think also too, he was very supportive and still supportive now, just checks in with me. Hey, you doing okay? And I left on good terms. I left in a great way. And I think, as I encourage other people that want to do what I'm doing, is just do it right, and be open about it. To the point that it got to where, hey, things got too busy that I couldn't keep up and do it in the night times or the evening times. My guys said, basically, hey, we can't do this without you, and you either got to hire somebody else or we need the boss. And it's like, okay, if we went a whole year, I can't believe I'm sharing this, but we went a whole year paying 2 people, and they were running the business full time, and it provided for their salaries for a year. And that was just, this is incredible to see and think about. And I it felt really awesome though, Sheldon, to be a part of that, because, knowing that 2 people, the services that we provide, we believe in. Yeah. So we just, recently last week got to do our first strategic planning meeting, and it's just amazing to have my whole team, of folks together. And a few of them are part-time, obviously, but this is with my full-time guys got together for the first time. We had breakfast. We played the leadership game, which is one of the tools that we have that I do for other clients, and got to do that ourselves. We learned a lot about each other playing that game, which was amazing. Then we did some brainstorming sessions, and with the team about just strategic growth and talking about our verticals. And so it's just like, all the things that I've been doing in the corporate space for years, I'm now getting to do in my own business with a team of people, and watching them get excited and grow about things. And it's just awesome to see, to say the least. And I would be remiss to say, I feel like God has just kind of orchestrated this whole thing, and just looking back, just how it all was put together, I'm just very, very thankful, very, very encouraged. My team is just amazing. They're great guys, great folks to work with, and we do more than just work together. We do life together. So anyway, it's pretty cool.
Hold on. Is that a t-shirt? That's a great t-shirt right there.
Might have to put that on the merch. Right?
That's right. The mind's always gone, right?
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
So that's, as you're telling me this in your change, it looks like you've yourself had a significant leadership just switch, if you would. You've had the chops for leadership. That's how you got started. But you got together your mission statements and all the other things for the Barksdale Safety and Barksdale Leadership. So tell us your journey to your leadership. I don't know if we call it leadership mastery or not, but at least you're getting a real good feel for leadership, even more than most people do. So tell us about your leadership journey, and then tell us a little bit about how you're transitioning what you learned to your clients.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, and for me personally, I'll just step back and think about my journey as a safety professional, just going from being a site guy, then eventually getting a role that was more of a regional type role, and then supporting organization, internally with, things we called it the excellence model, but it was, really an accountability, cultural type change event. And I really grew in that. And so, my leadership skills have been growing through the years, and then taking on additional roles and getting into managerial type roles outside of, my own business. And then as I've learned those things and applying them to my business, it's been great. But, the last, I'd say, year, I've always had a passion, and I've taught frontline leadership training from a safety perspective, always encouraged crews and contractors that I've worked with or worked around, whether it's consulting or whether it was in the corporate space, that, leadership is, we put people out there, and I'll give you this phrase that I've been thinking about is we put the next man up. I heard this the other day in a conversation. We put the next man up, and that's a great football strategy, but and I've heard somebody also say it's a lot of times we don't take it as a development strategy. We don't take the time to invest in the money and who is going to be the next man up and the next woman up to take on that role within the company. So succession planning and doing that right and helping people grow individually. And so, as I'm thinking about my company and where I wanted to go with this, I obviously had goals to go full time eventually. Didn't know how long that was going to take, but I said, I need something for my own personal growth. And so I started looking at, all right, do I go get another degree? Do I go do this? And 4 years ago, I had looked into Maxwell Leadership. And Maxwell Leadership, John Maxwell, is a highly acclaimed, respected leadership expert. He's got globally over 25 million books sold on leadership, and has almost 100 books, but 25 million sold. You must be saying something right. But anyway, he's got and have done so much. If you look into John Maxwell, he's done so much just across the globe on leadership. And it was so, 4 years ago, I'm looking at their program and it wasn't the right time. As I'm going through this internal processing earlier in the year, I'm starting to say, what can I do that's going to grow me? First of all, I want to grow. I need to grow, but also what is going to help me eventually when I go full time in my business? How is that going to help me be a better leader to the people that I'm leading and to the clients that I'm trying to help lead from a safety perspective? And I didn't really see it go in this way, where I would spin off Barksdale Safety to start a whole nother thing called Barksdale Leadership. But as this thing grew, and I'll explain that in a minute, it really just formed on its own, and it was amazing. But I go back to it. I called back the program advisor for Maxwell Leadership Certified Coach Speaker Trainer program and got some more information, started doing my research, and I said, looked at the investment that it would take, and I said, this really sounds great. I think it would help me. I think it would help me expand my vision of what I want the company to be. And I knew I needed to grow. But then the second part of this, I wanted to be able to use whatever I was growing in, that my company would grow, and that we would be able to use it as a revenue stream. Good. And so I think like that. Yeah. When anything that we take on as a small business, anything that we're going to do or provide, is this going to provide an avenue for growth within the company as a revenue stream, as something that we're going to get return on, whether it's our company, whether it's for our guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sheldon, I then, as I'm looking at the Maxwell program, I start to realize, like, this is it. This is the thing that I need to get into. And I got real excited, So I got the program. Now, granted, I joined, so they have 2 conferences a year, right? And you join either, you can join at any time, but you're only going to get access to their online portal to do things online. And that's the strategy that they use, is they have this online portal where you get to grow and watch videos and have all the resources at your fingertips, which is an amazing setup for Maxwell Leadership. Uh-huh. But as a trainer, speaker, coach, you have to go to the conference or you have to go to it virtually. And so I had to wait several months before I could go to the actual conference. Well, as I'm doing that, I'm digging into the platform. And what I'll say is, so as a Maxwell Leadership speaker, trainer, coach, behavioral analysis consultant, and I'm going to explain that in just a minute, there's a lot packed into all that. And I didn't know it at the time, but it fits so well with what I'm doing for my clients and trying to help them see what they need to see or otherwise don't see from a coaching safety perspective. And I was like, this is really amazing, because the concepts we're teaching is, Maxwell really encourages us, and this is one of his coined phrases, is everything rises and falls on leadership.
Yes.
And if I just take that little nugget right there and I apply that in the safety world and what we do to protect people every day at work, everything rises and falls on leadership. If you think about it, the crews, how are they being led? He talks about in his 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership, is a great book. We could talk about how you can get that book later, but the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership I read 3 times before I became a Maxwell leadership coach. Wow. And amazing. But the first law is the law of the lid. And the law of the lid says we all have got this lid or this capacity in our leadership. If I'm a 6 in leadership now, I can't lead anybody over that level. And I've got to raise the lid higher and on my own personal growth in order to be able to lead higher and go further. And so
that's great. I like that.
I think
that's great.
Yeah, it's awesome. And I think about all those things that I've learned from John Maxwell, just either reading his books and now being a part of the greater global Maxwell Leadership Certified Coach, Speaker, Trainer team. Just amazing at what he has given us. And that's what I want to just focus on for a minute is giving to people. And obviously I paid for a lot of the knowledge, but the way he structures things is he'd rather give than to take, and to do things that would, help somebody out. I don't know of very many companies or authors that are experts that create a program and basically give you rights to use their books, with some parameters and all those things. But as a coach, I'm able to leverage a lot of his systems that he's already built to go help my clients. And that's what I loved about the program and helping me grow, but helping my clients grow. Anyway, I hope that answers your question.
It does. And just thinking about that, especially knowing that you guys, for me, I've always told students that if you're going to change your culture, the culture starts not only with the leadership, but also the leaders have to be humble enough to listen to the subordinates or listen to the line, because, we're supposed to be staff to the line. The line's doing the work. We're supporting them.
Right.
And that's even the leadership that has to be humble enough to actually be part of that growth model for they learn and then the line learns. So I support and I believe what you're saying there. And that seems to me like you now can go with your clients past OSHA compliance to organizational culture. Is that
That's
fair?
Right. No, 100%. And so what I'll say is beyond even culture, we've got culture's huge in the safety world. We talk culture and you can split hairs about calling it safety culture or not. But I personally believe a safety professional can lead. There's 4 ways we lead. Okay. You self-lead. Okay. John Maxwell talks about this. If I'm in the room, I can self-lead. All right. And every day I ought to be leading myself. If I can't say, or if I won't follow me, then who else is going to follow me? Right. You got to ask yourself that hard question. Like, would I follow me in this endeavor, in this thing? So I got to ask myself, self-led. Then, peer-to-peer and leading people that are not necessarily below or above, but they're on the side of me, and peer-to-peer leading people. Those are so many powerful things that we can do that to help people grow and be better. But then as a safety professional, I also got to realize that there's a point where I got to lead up. Yeah. And I got to lead the upper management to say, listen, we're not hitting it here. Like, we're not hitting it in safety. We're not hitting it in quality. We're not hitting their production. And I personally think that, as I come from the different angles of, all right, I've been a safety professional, but see, I've also been in the ranks around leaders within the company that are trying to figure out what's the next step? What's the next thing we need to do to get better? And a lot of times, unfortunately, that's focused around because we had an event, right? Yeah. We're trying to get people to switch their mind to think proactively as, no, safety's not the absence of events, but it's the presence of controls. It's the presence of, having things in place. But I personally believe that's not going to happen until we've got greater leadership levels.
Yes.
And people leading themselves, leading others, leading up, and being intentional about their leadership growth. That's the thing. we can say we're high. I think I'm a good leader. What's good, what's bad? By whose standard? And the reality of it is that if we are not growing, I ask people this question all the time: what's your personal growth plan? What's your personal growth plan? Is it written down? I'm not talking about where your company's sending you this year to get a cost training or get your CSP or get this. I'm talking about your everyday, weekly, monthly. What's your growth plan? What are you growing in today? Because if you're not growing, you're staying stagnant and you're getting complacent. What have you learned today? And so I guess what I've gravitated to is that mindset that Maxwell's mindset is that it's a growth mindset. I want to be a growth individual. I want to grow personally, but I want to encourage and motivate, inspire the employees I'm working with, the leadership I'm working with to grow. Because when we grow, if you grow the people, if you grow the individuals, if you grow the leaders, the company grows. Yeah. And that's what I believe. I believe that and have seen it over and over. When we're not growing, we're getting stagnant. We're not willing to change. We're not willing to get better and learn from our mistakes, learn from the things that we need to learn from them. And then how are we getting better all the way around? So
yeah, and that's active learning. And some people have seen it in the model of a human and organization performance. One of the things that they say is, you got to learn. Dr. Todd Conklin and Dr. Sidney Decker in their book, Do Safety Differently, said that safety should be a capacity for the organization to learn and grow. And it seems like your organization is helping build that capacity instead of just looking for people who are wearing their hard hats or have their eye protection. Right. You're looking at, this is a deviation from norm. Why is this deviation happening? This is an avenue of risk. Where did the leadership break down, or something similar to why is the system not working as it should? And that's what I'm hearing here as you're counseling your clients to break down those that thought pattern so that they could grow. Is that also fair to say?
You're 100% right. And I'll say a lot of the leadership concepts and HOP concepts, go hand in hand. And that's what I love about, what I've learned about leadership as I've studied leadership, as I learned from Maxwell on leadership, is that what I've learned from a safety, human, and organizational performance side, that same lingo. And so one of the things I'll just quickly tell you, I'm currently walking through this with an organization right now, is they have about 80 leaders, general foreman and above. And our task have been to go in and first do assessments and then some workshops. But the reality of it is we're trying to see, hey, do we have the right people in the right place? Do we have the right talent managing the right things? And how does a safety guy do that? Well, I'll tell you, with my tools that I have from Maxwell. So one of the things we do is the Maxwell method of DISC and assessing personality and assessing behaviors. I'm able to tell from a 24 questionnaire and give a 30-page report to an individual and tell them about their communication styles, their work styles, their behavioral styles, and then exclusive to the Maxwell method of DISC is their strengths. And so I've been doing these sessions with these guys and talking about their personality, and it's like, oh my goodness, like I am like that. I do need to work on how I'm communicating with other people. And how do I do that? By learning the other styles and learning, do I need to modify what I'm doing? Do I need to augment with other people's strength? Do I need to capitalize on my own? Or do I need to blend with theirs and understand a short-term change in how I communicate these things may help in the long run in grabbing the concept? Because maintenance manager I used to work for at a chemical company said he'd always say before an outage, he'd say, communication, world's worst problem. Don't believe me? Ask your wife. And I've got that ingrained in my head.
That's great.
And it's like, it's spot on. How many times have you heard communication is the issue we're facing? This was a communication breakdown. Breakdown.
Yeah.
The reality of it is a lot of times what we're doing is we're putting someone, and I go back to that next man up syndrome, right? We put the next guy that's been with the company and we say, hey, listen, we're going to promote you to general foreman or foreman, And we don't give them anything. We might send them to do a OSHA 30 or a this, but we don't give them true leadership skills that they need. Yeah. And that's what I want to break down is, listen, it's more than sending somebody to do an OSHA 30. It's more than sending them to do a 30-hour, 40-hour, whatever, frontline leadership course on safety. You got to get them and invest in them daily, weekly, monthly with a plan, and hold them accountable to grow and help them grow. Invest in them in coaching, whatever it will take to make it part of your system. It can't be one and done type stuff. We're not going to win like that. I promise you.
Yeah. And I actually, I had a client of mine where they actually had a performance plan for every safety officer. So every safety officer had to, by mandate, grow. So the organization would literally have a budget set aside for what classes they're going to send the people to each year, just so that they could grow. And that's something that you mentioned there. But I also thought of the organizations that are struggling, and they're the ones that are calling you saying, hey, our leadership is not only safety, but our leadership as a whole needs some help. My personal belief is the frontline supervisor is the key to all organizations. And if the frontline supervisor or whoever the foreman isn't on board, your organization is going to end up being inefficient and struggle. That's one of my core beliefs is that's the frontline supervisor. And the thing that really, when you dig down with the frontline supervisors that are not performing well, it seems like some sort of siloing effect with they don't want to give out information because they feel like it makes them less relevant, or it makes them feel like they're dispensable if they give out that information. So they get kind of like protective of it. Is that what you're finding with your coaching?
When the folks that I have done, I think there's pockets of that. I think there's some that have moved past that, and that's all over the board. But yeah, if I get a role, what I'll tell you, what I am seeing a lot of, and agree with you, Sheldon, is that a lot of younger guys now becoming quote unquote frontline leaders, and they haven't been in the seat long enough. They're being put in these positions. And there's a gap in the knowledge. There's a gap in the skill to maybe they're great at the craft, but they don't really know how to lead and motivate people. And so what I find is, okay, switching from I'm your friend, I'm your coworker to, hey, listen, I'm the, quote unquote, foreman, leader, boss, whatever you want to call me. But, we can be friends, but there's a line to be drawn there, because I have to hold you and I accountable to achieve the results of the company. And what I'm seeing is, okay, how do we help them move past that? How do we help them realize, like, this is more than just more pay and more responsibility? This is helping them, like you said, they're the keys to the results of the company. So goes the leader, so goes the company, in my opinion. Like you said, it's when we have good frontline leadership, when we have good mid-level leadership, when we have good upper leadership, when we have leadership all the way around, everything, John says, everything rises and falls on leadership. So it's really at all levels, but I 100% agree with you. I think from a safety perspective, and really all perspectives, just frontline leadership have the keys to the kingdom. And if you don't give them the right tools, it could go really bad and continue that for generations, because you haven't invested in your people like you need to.
You're pretty much what the most model would be is, man, you're the best heavy equipment operator. We're going to make you the boss. And then all of a sudden they have no soft skills. They don't know how to deal with people. They're making people, quit because of the way that they manage them. And then all of a sudden your knowledge base gets deficient because, yes, this person's taking their knowledge and now they're the supervisor. But if they don't feel like they could give that to someone else, that knowledge base that they had as a frontline, or I should say as a worker or as an operator, is going to be with them, and it's only going to be with them. They don't share that information. I don't want to go like crazy with that one. I actually would like to see, because for all you guys listening, Justin was like straight up when he's telling you he created the mission and vision statement. So their mission statement is: we exist to educate, equip, and empower organizations to lead well in their workplace. And the other vision statement is to inspire a world where leaders at every level empower their team to achieve extraordinary results, foster innovation, and lead with purpose. So those are the mission and vision statements that you have. How does your sessions, or I should say, what does your sessions look like? If you're able to go under the hood and tell us, how are you getting people to help you accomplish that mission or that vision statement? So what's the leadership look like? The leadership when you get the teams together and you're helping them, what does that group look like?
Yeah, so I'll tell you, we usually, with our leadership development, a lot of this is taking a layered approach. And when I call it a layered approach, where I try to get my clients to understand that it's more than just, okay, we need a leadership workshop for 8 hours. It's more than that. What's the problem? What are you trying to achieve? As I talk to my clients, it's things like, well, it's accountability. We're just really not having accountability, or I've heard it over and over: communication. We're just having issues with communication. And so I hear that, or we want to do an assessment of our leaders because we're just really not sure, what's going on. We know we're having this happen or this happen, and not a whole lot of incidents, but it's just not really lining up and what's going on. So how do we educate, equip, and empower? Under the hood, we've got a lot of tools to do that, but I think it's simply, and I focus on this. And I'll obviously, as a consultant, I've got to think about the budget, right? The client's got a budget, what they're going to spend. I will do a workshop for you, but is that really going to solve your problem? Is that really going to help a one-time workshop? Or is there going to be things we need to think about and layer this in over a longer span of time? I mean, so selfishly, that helps me have more work from them, right?
Yeah,
but yeah. I really believe that, though. Yeah. I really believe that if we have a strategy versus just go in and do a workshop and then it's done, what did they take away? From being a teacher, we only know about 70% of what we go into one of these classes. We only retain about 30% of that, if that, right? Yeah. So I want my clients to see, and this is what I try to do every time, if it allows. Obviously, I've got to do within their budget range, but educating is more than a one-time thing. Educating is about a continuous growth of learning. Okay, and so we set up things where, hey, we're going to work either individually with the person. And that's what I'm doing a lot of right now, is working individually with people within this group. And then what we're going to do is then have work group sessions within the regions where we do a leadership session, but we also have group learning type things. And that approach, not only from a consultant perspective, helps me deliver my mission, but it also helps me grow revenue within the company. It also helps that company be better. I know I'm going to deliver the difference for them. Yeah. Now, it's going to be up to their people to grab on to the concepts and to get where they need to get to achieve their goals and to improve upon their communications. But I know my service will be top notch. And that's, if you're listening and you're a fellow consultant, you need to be thinking about what is the value add to your client. If it's not going to add value, then why do it? And sometimes you got to tell them that, like, listen, I don't think this is going to work. Now, I say that within balance because, listen, I got to eat. I got to put food on my table for my wife and kids, right? Yeah. But I want to strongly persuade and influence them. Leadership is influence. Nothing more, nothing less is what John says, John Maxwell. And so I want to influence my clients. Like, if you're serious about helping your leaders, then it needs to be more than a one and done thing. There needs to be a call to action. There needs to be a time to let it seed and let it grow and create the right environment for that learning and growing.
Yeah, absolutely. Because honestly, the growth part is not a one and done. There's no way. Because look at us, as we age, we're growing, right? Our knowledge base grows.
Right.
We didn't get this one session to learn how to walk, or one session. Now here's your one session. Here's how you ride a bike. Have at it. We actually need to,
Right.
even as humans, take time for that. So what you're doing with your clients, and I've had it too. I had some clients who were only looking for the one thing. For instance, I had a client who they had an OSHA fine, and I knew that there was a second fine to this person, and they had an expedited settlement agreement with OSHA, and I looked it over, and boy, did I want to just say, all right, I could take this case and go ahead and I'll try to get it, fight it down for you. But I was like, all right, take the settlement. You guys don't need to hire me. You just take the settlement on this one. And there's some times where you as a consultant, you got to wave the white flag, and you're going to give away this service because it's better for the client. It's better for the client in this way. But for what you're saying here, sure, you have to do the one-off workshops from time to time because that's what the client wants. But if they're thinking culture, then you're going to know that that's going to take some time. That's not a one-off. If you want to change your culture, or you just wanted to do a checklist item to say, I did it, I trained my guys with this. All right, now you're good. You got your training for the half hour from Justin. Check. What are you looking for? Are you looking for lasting change, or are you just looking to check off a box?
Exactly.
And don't blame me.
Exactly. And I think about, just going back to a little bit why I pivoted, and shifted to having Barksdale Safety Solutions and then Barksdale now Leadership Solutions, and having the two is I actually it opened up to a completely new market, to folks that don't necessarily need my safety consulting services, or don't think they need it right now, should I say. But I'll give for instance, like real estate. I got a client right now, they're a real estate company, and man, they're rocking it. And these got, 10 employees. And what we've come in and done is I've been able to provide, now a coaching to the business owner, and that's a 6-month deal that I've signed. And now I'm going to be doing helping them rewrite their vision and mission, and helping them get their core values down, and rebranding of those communication styles. And so, what this allows me to do is pivot in a different world. But then what I like about it is that when I go back into larger corporations that want my safety services, is that they realize that I have the business acumen that I need to serve them. A lot of safety professionals that want to be consultants, and I hope your listeners get this, is that you have to grow in your business acumen. If you're not learning about your business and how you make money, and how that company you're serving makes money and what they're doing, how can you truly serve them as a safety professional well when you don't know how the work is being done? And you got to think about that. You got to think about how all the things play in, because it is certainly, whether you're working with a service company that, they're doing service work, let's just say on ACs, and they have a bunch of technicians that go out. All right, well, you know what from a safety perspective they need, and from a legality OSHA perspective, but how do they make money? How does that generate? How does that play into all the things of culture that we don't, we know rubs the rest of it. A lot of times I get into a discussion about safety culture, and it's really not even safety. It's more about the production, and it's, it's not focused. So we as safety professionals have to make sure that we're working to grow our business acumen, and understand that we know the business that we're in, or that we're serving, or the different types. Anyway.
Well, also it helps when you're picking up a client. You got to learn so much about what they do, because if you give them a safety solution, but it's a problem to the organization, it's not going to last anymore. The organization won't be able to properly do something, because you didn't understand the way that their production schedule works. You didn't understand the way that this department fits in with this one, or the way that they have their fiscal year and all that stuff. Those are things that, even though it's not typical safety, if we don't understand that, we're missing out on the organization. So our actual expertise is safety, but we do need to know that there is a business cycle that's also like steering everything else. So that's where we go back to the definition that safety isn't just telling people to put on their hard hats and worry about low-level type of injuries, but it is truly what is the organization's, and I've said organizational culture the whole interview because I don't believe in safety culture. I believe it's organizational culture. And the organizational culture has to be, our component is analyzing risk and looking when it gets unacceptable or even with deviations. And that leads to the full function of the organization. So therefore, we shouldn't be dealing with hard hats and protection and all that stuff. That's right. That's not what we're really working on. And I don't want to miss this one thing that you noted, that you said, that I've been telling my audience for 4 years now, is you don't have to stick with just safety. You honestly have to, in order to survive, not just as a consultant, but survive as someone who's working for yourself, use all of your talents. If your talent is musician, then play out someplace on Friday nights and Saturday and Sundays and get yourself some money from that. If you're an artist, get your money from being selling some artwork. And you've branched out to doing the leadership portion, even to people in real estate. That's the heart of being your own boss. It doesn't have to be myopic. Be your own boss, right, with all of the areas that you are skilled in. And I like the way that you've done that, and that's why I had your back. It's really amazing.
Well, I'm glad to be back and just conversate with you. Like, just learn so much each time we talk. And, as I think about just the journey of being a consultant, and I don't view it as, hey, I just view every day as opportunity, right? We've got opportunity out there, whether we're serving our safety clients or we're serving our leadership clients. I want to add value to people. And I think, for your listeners, you got to get that clear mission about what you're going to do. For me, that's pretty clear. Equip, empower, educate, equip, and empower, and make sure that, you are adding value every day to the folks that you are serving. And that's, whether it's your own people within the group that you hire or that you're out there. And so that's me and my story. But anyway.
No, that is the story. That's why you're here. That's what we wanted to hear. I want to hear how, the leadership side, the safety side, and then truly the management of you managing other people, because there's a bunch of people listening that says, hey, I need to grow. I don't know how to grow. And well, here, let me ask you this question. So instead of leading the witness, how about how did you choose a fit for your staff? So I know you had to do interviews and stuff like that. And how did you now figure out, all right, this is the type of person I want? So what made it click, and how can you suggest people who are looking to bring people on their business, what kind of tips should they do when they're doing those interviews?
Yeah. No, and I'll say this, just for me personally, in small business, it's got to be somebody, as you think about and do your interviews, you got to, for a small business like mine that's growing, I had to have people that are like-minded, entrepreneurial style, that knows we all wear a lot of hats. And if that person is not looking for that kind of job and really a go-getter, this is probably not the time to come to work for me, right? Because we all are just trying to grind it out and make sure that we create sustainable growth within that. As I'm working with my clients and hiring the right people, I personally believe in doing the things I've learned from Maxwell. Leadership is, I think that once you get narrowed down to hiring a candidate or 3 or 4 that you're looking at, I've got some tools within my tool belt called the benchmark and interview services. And what it does is it sends them a link. They do a little personality test. And then based on that test, it gives you questions to ask to make sure you've got the right people for that seat in that in the organization. As I look at organizations, I think what they tend to do is they hire the person that's got the most technical skill for the role, but then, they don't think about all the other things they're going to have to do. Now, you can help that person grow if you're willing to invest that, but you have to make sure that, hey, we've got the right person culturally, we've got the right person from skills, and then the personality is going to mesh well with us. And so those are some actual services. But just in general, I want to find somebody who's, I want diversity of thought, obviously, but I want also someone like-minded that understands. And when I give them the vision and mission, they understand it, they get it, and they're able to grab it on like me. And what I tell my guys all the time is we got to make sure that everything we do, every task, everything we touch, okay, has got to line up with, all right, how does this fulfill the mission and vision of this organization? Or we're not going to be successful as a consultancy. We have got to make sure our task aligns within the verticals, how it fits, how it's serving. And there are going to be things like, hey, we got to make a decision on customer didn't like this, whatever. All right, do we give them their money back? Do we, take off for this? And we do a lot of CPR training and a lot of it virtually. And we've had folks that sign up. We have a no refund policy on that because a lot of the costs are up front because of how that virtual class works. This is just a for instance. And I can't every time somebody just decides not to take my class, give them money back. But there are times where I give people certain situations money back. And I've given my guys the autonomy to figure those situations out. Hey, and they usually come to me to get consensus, but we do a 3 to agree. And when we make big decisions, we do, hey, I need 3 people and me to agree. And that works right now in a small setting, but as you get into the larger corporations, there's got to be that teamwork and dynamic of how, you work within those groups. And then when you hire into those groups, got to be careful hiring people outside that, it's going to take, you're going to need to know you got to take time to train them, to get them up to speed, and then to help them see your blind spots because they're going to bring something fresh into the group. But there's a lot of things that go into that question, Sheldon.
I know.
But
I loaded the question for you, didn't I?
For me, if you're just starting out in consultancy, how do I know when to hire somebody? I've just taken it in, if I've got so much, obviously my journey was different. I hired people before I came full time. And so literally they made more money than me because they were on projects that, were billable hours and things like that. Whereas now I'm like, I've got the bigger picture and trying to strategize. Okay, we're growing this vertical, this one, and this, how that money feeds in. But that's our growth right now. Is we're trying to focus on our 4 verticals: our leadership solutions, our programmatic training development solutions, our lifesaver solutions, and our safety pro services solutions. And there's other things we do within those mixes. But if I had to tell you what Barksdale Safety does those 4 things. Barksdale Leadership, I sent you over our little brochure. We do executive coaching, speaking, training, mastermind classes, behavioral assessment. There's a lot of tools that I have from a leadership perspective, but that transcends, just the safety side of leadership. But anyway.
Yeah, no, that's great. And how's someone going to reach out to you? What's the best way for them to say, all right, I need people to, especially those that are in right now, they're thinking about being a consultant and everything, but they're actually working for an organization and they're like, ooh, this will help support me. So how do they reach you to say, I need Justin's team in here? So tell them how to reach you.
Yeah, Justin at barksdalesafety.com is my direct email. Welcome to email that. Justin, Justin at barksdalesafety.com. That's on the leadership front or the safety front. I just have one email, keep it simple. But
oh, yeah.
it's I think I sent over my QR code. Also has my cell phone. So if you put the QR code up there, Sheldon, they can scan that. It's going to have even my number to call me. So listen, I love just being personal with people. If I don't answer your phone call, leave me a voicemail. I'm going to call you back within a day. I promise. I want to make sure I connect with people and help people.
Yeah, that's awesome. And for those of you, if you go to the actual show, you're going to see the picture of Justin there. You're going to see the QR code, and that's going to be the cover art of the show. So you could use your phone, scan that right there, and you're going to have all of that contact information for you. So, Justin, anything that you want to share before we go? Just any last thing that we didn't cover that you're like, oh yeah, I forgot to say this. I just want to give you that opportunity so you could get that out.
I just think, as just to serve your clients, really well, if you're listening today and you're thinking like, I think I want to be a safety consultant, think about the things you're really good at right now. And those are your strengths. Work and play in those strengths wherever you're at and do your best there and grow from there. And what you're not strong in, work on those and have more than just this high, thing that you look at one time a year that, oh yeah, here's my personal development strategy that I give to my boss and my corporate seat. No, have you a daily, weekly type thing that you say, what did I grow? And ask yourself this, what did I grow in today? What did I learn today that I didn't know yesterday about what I need to do? And I think that will help many, many of your listeners, Sheldon. I really believe in that. That's what I help people coach, is that growth mindset. We've got to shift to a growth mindset in order to get and to achieve the results we're trying to achieve in our personal life and in our business world that we work, so, or wherever we're trying to go corporately, so.
All right. Justin Barksdale, everybody. And don't forget the Barksdale is Barksdale. Just want to make sure they got that out too. But thank you so much, man, for being back on the show. And I am proud of you, the business, how you guys have been growing. That is really cool. I'm glad to be a part of it.
Well, thank you. And thanks so much for having me.
You're welcome.